like to call it feminism because feminism has a bad rap. I like to call it girl boss and girl power, and I like to think of girls to be able to work hard and play hard because, as I said in my book, everyone now lives in a generation where you can make anything your career, and especially for girls, go out there and live your dream like I have. And being a feminist isn't about bashing men. It isn't about, feeling like you're really always battling someone, challenging you. Sometimes it's really about living your best self and being your full self and being the girl that you have inside you.
Lovely. A lot of women want to start out in entrepreneurship. So what are your tips for them?
So first, figure out what you want to do, because a lot of times people make the mistake of saying, okay, what can I do that's going to make me a lot of money? That is a recipe of never making any money. So the best thing to do is, first of all, think about what is the one thing, as I mentioned in the book, what is the one thing you would do for the rest of your life, even if nobody paid you to do it? And find a way to make that your career. And then you'll be rich and famous, and you'll have it all. So that's my tip for entrepreneurship.
You've seen all the Bollywood moms as they've had their babies. So who do you think is acing this mommy gig? Who's doing
My
it?
mom, right? She is. I mean, all of them are. I think they're doing such a great job now, and I think I was so happy to see Kareena Kapoor walk the ramp for Sabyasachi when she was pregnant, and because we live in this society where it's always like, oh my God, hide the fact that you're pregnant. Why? And she really owned it, and she was, loud and proud about her baby bump. And I think that was great, and everyone has killed it, I mean, I look at them and I tell my husband, I'm like, I am not going to look like this. Please do not have any such expectations. I'm going to be a whale. But look at Soha, she looks great. Half the time you can't even tell. So I think they're all doing a great job.
They had their babies well good off them.
Yeah, and that there used to be this thing about, oh my God, once you get married in Bollywood or you have babies, your career is over. They're proving that wrong.
Absolutely. So what are your tips? I mean, you lead such a hectic life. What are your tips for work-life balance?
I have zero work-life balance. I'm probably not a good person to ask this tip. I think work-life balance, I mean, somebody asked me this before, and I feel like you don't need to balance your work and life if you love what you do, because then everything is life, and then you can live a beautiful trapeze act instead. But having said that, try to get sleep, 7 hours of sleep minimum. In fact, Ariana Huffington has written an entire book called The Sleep Revolution, which I mentioned in my book. And I think sleep is really important. Drinking water is really important. Eating home food is really important. My mom is so happy because all these things she's been telling me for so long to do and I never did. I think taking care of your body because it's your home is probably the best way to find balance.
A lot of women look up to you as their idol, as their icon. What would you advise them in terms of safety, in terms of, in wake of this entire Me Too thing that's happening? So what would your tips be?
I mean, in the real world, you just have to be aware. And, I don't want to be one of those people who says, don't wear something or don't go out now at night, but I'm saying be vigilant, just like you would be even if you're a guy. I went to Rio and they had this list of stuff near our hotel, which said, this is your hotel, green zone. And then they had red in all the blocks near there. They're like, don't go anywhere here for everyone, not just the girls, but the guys too. I think, you have to be vigilant. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have some kind of taekwondo or kickboxing or things like that. But there are a few things that you can just, use cleverly. I've seen people just pull out their keys and use it to stab people. There's a lot of YouTube videos that can show you amazing things. I was interviewing DJ Hardwell, and he showed me how you can just lock one knee behind someone's and trip them. The thing is that you can actually use the other person's weight against them. So I think it's really mostly about being vigilant. And for women, I think it's about creating your own power and identity as well. Because it's not just about being safety in terms of physical safety. People can have a lot of damaging impact on you emotionally, especially like bullies on the internet or people saying things. And that's safety too, So you have to build up your self-esteem and believe in yourself and know that no one can tell you how you should be or that you should be any different or look a different way or feel a different way or dress a different way. You are your best lover and best friend, and your own opinion should matter the most.
That's fabulous. As a citizen of India, we are primarily a very reactive citizenry, and we see it all around. What would your words be regarding being more proactive, participating in something like maybe the Swachh Bharat campaign?
I think it's great. I think it's an opportunity for everyone to make a difference. And I have to say that I'm very impressed with what Mr. Narendra Modi has done, and the fact that he's taken the initiative to do things that people weren't doing earlier. And you saw Hrithik Roshan came out on the streets and was sweeping the streets. And I think everyone can do things in their own little way. The one thing that really bothers me as I see us do this here is that we won't think twice about throwing a plastic wrapper out of our car window in India. But you would never do that when you travel. And it's because we don't shame each other when it happens here, and we don't think of our country as our home, as a collective, So I think it's very important that we start taking ownership and loving our country. And it's a mix of those things, right? I mean, even in our building, there's like one guy who doesn't want to paint the building, and everyone else does. And because he doesn't want to, we can't paint the building, Which is ridiculous. So I think it's about really thinking of not just your streets, but you have to think of the planet as your home, and you should treat it that way. So I think there's a lot that can be done there.
Lovely words, lovely words. I hope people take this to heart. And finally, what do you think of the work we're doing at Shield People?
I think you're doing such an incredible job. I watch all your videos, I follow you on social media, and I think, first of all, I love it that it's called She the People. It's like such a clever name. I think it's so great. I think women who support other women are the best women in the world. Because one thing that always happens is that we've been conditioned to feel that the only way that you can do well as a woman is by tearing other women down. And I had the privilege of going to hear Michelle Obama speak, and it was like those 50 bloggers, and it was incredible. And she said the most amazing thing. She said, people tell us that we have to tear each other down as women to succeed, but that's not true. The more you uplift other women, the better we will do. And she saw and I get goosebumps thinking about it, 50 women in that room, and she said, I have a lot of faith in the future, because in front of me are standing tomorrow's mothers, sisters, leaders, and the people who are going to teach the men and women of the next generation empathy and kindness. And that's going to change the world. And I think that's what She the People does.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. And now we will
It's been a long journey from Allahabad to Bombay and around half the world. So tell us a little bit about the childhood that was so peripatetic and took you all over the world, and probably that's the accent is where it came from, right?
People always ask me, because I worked in radio, and someone messaged in saying, why do you have an accent? Did a plane to New York fly over the radio station? I'm like, this is a really good insult. So I'm a diplo brat. My mom and dad were in the foreign service. They were diplomats. So I was born in Allahabad. When I was 6 months old, we moved. And then we went to Somalia, Lebanon, Greece, Ivory Coast, Bulgaria, Germany. Every 3 years we moved. And I got to go to a lot of international and American schools, hence the accent. But I really feel that that's where my whole personality developed. And that's where I became really good at making new friends every 3 years and running to a new house and saying, okay, where's my room? And it really teaches you how to... travel is the best educator. It's the best classroom. The world is the best classroom. And I feel like my best friend was Korean, so I know how to say I love you in Korean, salanghey. So if you ever meet a cute Korean boy, now you know what to say. And you get a chance to really have the experiences, taste the food, have the cultural experiences that you would never have sitting in one place. And a lot of people ask me, I'm going to have kids, should I move them around when I grow up and I travel? And I'm like, absolutely do it. Kids are so resilient, they adjust, they adapt. And I think that childhood was just incredible. It feels like a whole other life now, but it really taught me everything I know. It also gave me the biggest reality check, because when you're the Indian ambassador's kids, you're really spoiled rotten. So I remember coming back, and when we retired and we went to the apartment, and I was like, oh, this is cute, where's the rest of it? And my mother's like, and I was like, where's the pool? She's like, sit down, there is no pool. So it teaches you very quickly that you have to survive in the real world and, not take it for granted.
Too much of a reality check too soon, you would say?
I mean, I was 17, so at that point I still had, mom and dad taking care of things, and but it was a little bit of after a while, after this is such a cute apartment, went to what happened to my house?
I read the book and it's fabulous. I mean, you guys all are not, no hard sell, no pressure, but it's a fabulous book and you guys must buy it and read it.
Or just sit here and read it, you don't have to buy it.
But there's so many anecdotes, and one of them that really stuck in my head was the one about the gold glasses and the little boy.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of girls can relate to this. So when I was growing up in middle school, I didn't have contact lenses for some reason, but I had these gold glasses with a gold bar across, and you know how sexy those are, right? And I used to wear them, and I remember I knew there was this French-Canadian boy that I really liked. His name was Benoit. And I was told that he's going to come over in the morning and ask me out to be his girlfriend. And I was super excited. I was all ready. And then he knocked on the gate and I opened it. And I saw him look at me and he changed his mind. And we sat in my room and talked, but he wouldn't tell me why. And I wanted him to admit that it was the glasses because I could see it on his face, that that's what it was. And then I literally stopped wearing my glasses to school and I probably ruined my eyesight as well. But I was so angry. And my best friend kept telling me, you know, you can't ask somebody why they don't want to be with you. And I'm like, this time he has to admit it that he's shallow. But it was an experience that, you know, I felt deeply about. It hurt my feelings. It made me feel, you know, small about myself. But it made me realize in the long run, the people who are really going to be worth it in your life and that you want in your life are not going to look at you in such a shallow way, right? I mean, if somebody likes you that much, those gold glasses are going to be the coolest thing in the world. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's at the end of the day, I think these experiences are what build you up and build your confidence eventually. The layers that
I want to go back and tell him they're really trendy now because I have a pair of Charles & Keith sunglasses that look exactly the same, by the way.
So if he's listening to this, he knows. He knows. You heard it back then. Apart from traveling the world, growing up, coming back to Little House, which because the rest of it happened, what are the fun experiences of your childhood that really stand out in your mind right now?
I mean, I got to do such incredible things, you know, just travel the world. And I was like 9 years old in Greece, so Greece was probably, the hot men were definitely wasted on me at that time. I was all about the playground, but, you know, going to all these cool islands and, you know, eating incredible food. And I think it's just seeing such beautiful places. And, you know, you would never think that it would be like that. I went to high school in Cote d'Ivoire in Ivory Coast, in West Africa, and it was kind of like going to school in Goa. Everyone's really chilled out and fun. You have these really nice markets. I was part of every school play, every pep rally, everything in the world. And I think those are the things that stick out to me. I think everyone gets so caught up, and part of the reason why, and I talk about in the book why I started something called Friday Club is, you know, you move to new cities and you think that just having a good school or having a good job and making enough money is going to make you happy. Unless you're emotionally satisfied, you're never going to be happy anywhere. But if you're emotionally satisfied, you can be happy anywhere. So it's really about finding your emotional happy space. And for me, it was always about getting to know people. And I went to a therapist recently and he nailed it. He was like, you need people to like you. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's true. And I think that one of the things that, and I know this sounds a bit existential, is I feel that people have gotten so caught up in this world about make money, go hard, right? You know, it's just like, oh, work this much, you know, sleep when you're dead, and, you know, make the money and you'll live later. But that's not what we're here for. You know, we're here for like 60, 80 years max. I mean, my mom is definitely gonna live to 150, but anyway. And it's just like, what is the purpose? Our greatest purpose here is to interact with each other, to meet people, to fall in love, to have our hearts broken, to cry, to feel, you know? Like there's a line from Moulin Rouge, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is how to love and be loved in return. And I think anything that takes you away from that is the wrong experience. So everything should bring you back to love, which is why I love romantic movies and signs and all these things that I talk about in the book. But that's what you should remember every day. That is the whole purpose. So, like, we're sitting here and smiling and connecting. This is going to be such a much more meaningful experience to me than anything else I could randomly do, sending, you know, work emails and trying to sell a brand, you know?
That's lovely. And she's always walked the talk, you know, if she's even with her tweets, with her posts, it's always been about connecting. And with her radio as well. So she pioneered quite a bit. So we'll come to the radio and we'll come to the Bombay and how Bombay came into your life. I mean, there was one fine day where you just upped and decided to come to Bombay. So why Bombay? What was it about Bombay that drew you? And we are Bombay Wali, so we want to know that.
Okay, I'm going to admit something that nobody knows. So I follow my heart, okay? And I fall in love a lot all the time. And get my heart broken, and now I'm married, so I'm safe. But I actually came to visit my friend Nikki. She had already moved to Bombay, and I was living in Delhi. And first thing, I just love the vibe. There's so much energy, the neon lights, and there's chaos, but it's amazing. And I met a boy here, and I was like, oh my God, I wish I could live in Bombay. So literally, that's why I moved, and I really need to thank him. It didn't work out. He was the one whose parents used to call my parents from long distance, say, your daughter entertains our son at 4 in the morning. And my mom was like, whatever they're doing at 4 in the morning, they can do at 12 in the afternoon. And I was like,
That's super cool.
that was such a great answer. Of course, I got in a lot of trouble afterward. Anyway, but Yeah, so that's why I moved. But the day I landed, it was raining, and I didn't know anyone. I had 2 suitcases, 40,000 rupees in my bank account, and it was raining, and there was neon lights, and I felt like I was out of one of those Bollywood movies again, where the song is playing and the actress is driving away from really sad experience into her future. They just didn't have a soundtrack, but I was like, this is it. I'm supposed to be here, and that's how Bombay came into my life, and it's been 18 years.
And now you are a Bombay Wali.
I am definitely a Bombay Wali now. Yeah.
So, Malini started off with advertising.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Actually, I started off as a backup dancer for Sukhbir.
Yes, that was before Bombay.
Yeah, yeah.
That was, and she did a bit of backup dancing. Then she's been in advertising. She was at MTV. Then you know her as the radio jockey. And then it's Miss Malini. So it's been a long journey. So just take us briefly through how this entire journey came about.
So I've been really lucky that I've sort of fallen into jobs that I loved, and I actually have to give mom credit for that, because when I wanted to be a backup dancer, she was never like, no. She's like, okay, I'm coming too, with a handy cam, and sit in the front row and record everything, but she would cut off everybody else's heads and just film me, which is amazing. But anyway, so it was one of those things where I could just go and try new things, and I think I was lucky to be at a point of time in every career where something new and exciting was happening. So I was dancing, and then suddenly all these websites had started. So I went and started working for a Delhi portal and started writing content. Then I moved to Bombay, and I worked for Activate Technology. They set up Chalo Mumbai, which was Midday's website. So again, in content. And then I went to an interview at Asia Content, which is a company, and the guy said to me, okay, I'll be straight with you. We need to hire someone for MTVindia.com. We want them to run the romance and sexuality channel. And I was like, you're gonna pay me to write about love all day? This is amazing, yeah. And then my business card said channel head, romance and sexuality, and everyone was like, what are you doing in Bombay? And then radio, one day I was working at MTV, and a friend of mine said, commercial radio has begun, why don't you go and audition? And I went, and I got the job. So it kind of all sort of tumbled into each other. And the radio station was owned by Midday, and they wanted me to do a column. So I did a column called Malini's Mumbai, which is probably like the first rudimentary version of the blog decades ago. And that's where I used to write about my experiences and, surprise, surprise, Bollywood stars and all of that. And then I moved to Channel V. And I'm a workaholic in a way, but I love what I do. So every morning I would work at MTV from 9 to 6. And then I would walk over to the radio station, and from 9 to midnight I would do the graveyard shift on the air, because you have to learn to do better. And I used to write my column in between, and I loved it. And I always tell people, do more than one job. Why not, if you can, Like all your life you grew up paying people to teach you things in school and college. Now they're paying you to learn, so.
And that was a hell of a long day. So any of the kids listening here who want to pack up at 6 o'clock, please clean out that earwax and listen hard.
That means you're doing the wrong job if you want to leave at 6.
In your book you write about science, and you believe a hell of a lot in science. So what were the main signs that you had that this was going the right way for you, and when did you know that the universe is conspiring?
So I've genuinely always believed that if you really want something, dil se mango to puri kayanat, one of those lines. But I think I felt like it was falling into place because I was getting a lot of positive feedback about things. I remember being on the radio for 9 years. And the day I stopped, I was depressed. I was genuinely so sad. That was my first love. I always call, radio my first love and blogging my marriage, and for the long haul. And I remember feeling really sad about it. But then one day I was at this bar called The Ghetto, and I was having a drink, and someone asked me what I do, and I said, I'm a blogger, it's a new thing. And they said, what's your name? And I said, Malini. And they're like, Miss Malini, I know your blog. And I had the same feeling I had when I was on the radio, and I was like, okay, this is definitely romance number 2. So I think it was just incredible to have that sort of stuff fall into place for me. Signs have been of 2 kinds. I talk about the number 189 a lot, and I don't know how much everyone believes in this. Hocus pocus, as my husband calls it. But you never know, right? You believe in things. So the number 189 shows up in my life a lot, and I researched it, and apparently it means that an angel is trying to contact you. Which is amazing, right? Some people see 111, there's various ones, right? And now that I've said this, you're gonna see 189 a lot. And if you do, you tell me, because it just starts happening to you. And I felt like those were signs. Every time I would see the number 189 somewhere, I'd be like, oh, okay, it's like a nugget from Hansel and Gretel dropping me a line in the universe that I'm on the right path. And just sometimes things people would say. The other thing that happened for the longest time, I don't know if this ever happened to you. Before you saw The Truman Show, did you ever think you were in The Truman Show? The movie? Where you always thought like everybody kind of knows what's up and they're all conspiring and your life is like one big movie about you, which is kind of is. So I thought that I saw The Truman Show, it was like, this is what's happening to me, you know? But I always try to tell people, I was like, technically you are the hero or the heroine of your movie. This whole life is your movie. Just try to think of it as a comedy. And then anything that happens will not be so bad.
Talking about comedy, there is a pigeon anecdote in the book, which is most hilarious, but I'm going to have Malini tell you.
Yeah.
Or do you want to read it?
No, whatever you like. I think it's at the 4. All right, I'm gonna try these. I guess you could say my story begins like any good 90s Bollywood movie, with a pigeon and a damsel in distress. When I first moved to Mumbai nearly 2 decades ago, I had 2 suitcases, knew 1 friend, and lived in an apartment with 6 girls and a pigeon. And every single night, this suicidal bird would fly around the living room, where I slept on a mattress on the floor, threatening to impale itself on the ceiling fan as I cowered under a thin white bedsheet. My rent at the time was 1,625 rupees per month. So just imagine the state of that apartment. And Facebook hadn't been invented yet. Let me just say that again. Facebook didn't exist, let alone Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. All I had technology-wise was an alphanumeric pager and a head full of dreams.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely.
So that little apartment, from that to building a brand that is in over 200 countries today, how did you spot the trends before they happened? How did you jump onto the social media bandwagon? Back then, I remember I was just mommy blogging and Miss Malini was out there every single day telling us what the Bollywood world was up to. So what was your trick to spotting trends?
So I think the trick is being your own audience. When I came back, and I love Bollywood, I love fashion, and when you grow up in the foreign service, they send you movies every month. They send you 2 A grade, 2 B grade, and 2 C. So like you see even the humshakals of the world. So I had seen every possible Bollywood movie up till date. You know, I had a slam book about Amir Khan, so I loved Bollywood. So when I came back and I was like, great, I'm going to live in India. There's going to be so many places for me to consume all of this. And I couldn't find one website that kind of told Bollywood stories without it just being a media dump. Like this person came to this party wearing this. Like, where's the story? Where's the fly on the wall? I want to feel like I was there. So I was like, okay, maybe that voice is missing. And I felt the gap was the Miss Malini voice. Like we have Chota Bheem and then we have Bollywood stars. We don't have a millennial identity in between. You know, not a Hannah Montana, but with, you know, maybe your Ryan Seacrest or, you know, whatever the Oprahs and, you know, all those the characters in between. But I feel like that's what was missing for me. So I really wanted to create a voice that represented young millennial India. You know, the Indian that's going to go and dance to London Tumakta at their best friend's wedding, but equally is interested in pop culture and travel and food and all those things. And part of this was because when I was growing up, people don't know much about India and millennials, I realized, because they'd be like, oh, your English is so good. And I'm like, so is yours. Like, they don't, you know, or they'll be like, in 5th grade, right? Someone asked me in the 5th grade, do you go to school on an elephant? I'm like, that would be awesome. But no, you know? And so these things that I was like, you know, because people watch Discovery Channel, National Geographic, and they see Slumdog Millionaire, and unfortunately they only see another side of India. They see the villages and the poverty, which does exist, but they don't see anything about the millennial India. And I wanted to have a voice for that and represent what cool, amazing voices and people and inspirations are coming out of this incredible country. So that's kind of what I wanted to go with. I forgot what your question was though.
Why do you stick with this?
Yeah.
How did you spot the trends?
So trends-wise, it was really about what did I think was interesting, what did I find, and I wasn't really, you know, I'm not qualified to be someone to criticize fashion or, you know, critique a Bollywood movie aside from have my opinion on it. Which is why I say the difference between influencers and critics is influencers should have opinions, and critics, if they come from a place of that education and background to constructively criticize, should criticize. And I don't think those two are the same things. So for me, it was really about spotting things that I thought were exciting. I never said that, okay, this for sure is a trend tomorrow. I would say, hey, I think this is a cool trend. It seems to be picking up. And social media is actually a great place to, you know, pick up what the voices are about. And the number one way is really to interact with people. And social media made that happen. So the only way you will know about trends and you'll know what's happening is if you go to the party and talk to people, right? I always try to explain social media like this. We've taken social media and put so many marketing terms on it, we no longer think of it as a human interactive space. Social media was made so that we can find more people to have crushes on that are not in our closest radius, right? So, but we forget that. And the way we treat social media wrong is that we go up, put up pictures of ourselves, put up everything. But think about it, in the real world, that would be the equivalent of you going to a party, putting up posters of yourselves and leaving. And not talking to a single person there. And that's the mistake people make, And I think that that's how you spot trends, is if you go to the Facebook party or the Snapchat party and talk to people, what people are wearing. One of my stylists told me that, what is fashion? How do you decide what's fashionable? It's not what people tell you. It's when you walk around and you see someone and you're like, hey, that caught my eye. That looks cool. I like those shoes. That is genuine fashion. That's personality. And anyone who tells you that you don't look fashionable and you feel good at it is wrong. They may not think that you're fashionable. That does not make you fashionable.
That's a lovely place to come from, especially constructive criticism. And I can vouch for that. In all of Malini's posts and blogs, there is nothing, as she says in the book, that she wouldn't say to someone to their face. And it's all warm, it's constructive. And if there's something negative, it's always worded very politely.
I mean, it comes back to bullying, right, Kiran?
Yeah.
I mean, the point is, we can all sit behind, and I don't know if you guys have seen a show called Black Mirror.
Yeah.
It is scaring the F out of me, okay? Like, what's going to happen with technology, right? Now, the thing is, it's very easy because the internet has made it possible for us to sit behind this glass, shield and say anything we want to anyone. In the past, you couldn't do that. If you wanted to be mean to someone, you had to have the balls to come up and be mean to them face to face, So you have to continue to be able to do that. So if you're going to say something that you think you have the right to say, then have the balls to say it to my face, or let me say it to your face. Otherwise, you're a bully. And I don't believe it's fair to be bullied. So that's, I think, my agenda.
Part of brand Malini, and also part of brand Miss Malini, is that she doesn't accept fairness cream.
Yeah. I have a real problem with that.
Yeah.
I just think, the thing is, and I'm not saying bash people who want, for anything. I'm not saying bash them, but I'm saying that the problem with fairness creams is the message and emotional damage they do on women. And men as well. Like, I was really upset when Shah Rukh Khan did a Fair and Handsome. Like, what? It's, the thing is that, we have, our skin is not just much better at handling things like cancer because, it is that shape. It's also a representation of our culture and our history, which is so rich. Why would you want to hide that, And we have every shade, every beautiful shade of personality. The most important thing is what you are nurturing and who you are making yourself inside. And yes, of course, you want to look beautiful outside, but now do it with the skin that you're in. Love the skin that you're in. And I think the biggest thing that we can do, especially in our lives, our generation maybe is past this, and we're wearing lipstick colors and foundation colors that suit our skin tone. But there is traffic below that is not doing that. And I've seen that, with like my maid's daughter, that she's, putting baby powder on her face to try to look fair and stuff. And I think it's important for us to filter that message down, to say that, look, you don't need to do that, and this is how you can look beautiful in the amazing skin tone that you are. And that's the message. And I used to blame the fairness creams, but then I had a realization. I'm like, you know what? It's not the fairness creams, it's the aunties. It's the damn aunties. They're the ones like, and I had an auntie like this, and she used to say to me really oddly, you're looking so good now, tum itne achhe lag rahe ho, pehle tum kitni kali si sukri si hoti thi. Like, you used to, and I was like, is this a compliment? Like, you used to be so dark and thin earlier. And I was like, that's the problem, because they tell you that, oh, you're not going to find a good husband. Even the commercials are, the girl is dark, sitting in a room crying. She can't get married, she can't get a job, so her parents are sad, they're getting bankrupt, and fair and lovely, and becomes Miss India. And I was like, what just happened, So yes, I have a problem with that.
So apart from fairness creams, apart from not talking ill about anyone are there any rules that you have?
It's not necessarily, it's not about talking. I'm human, right? I'm sure there's like somebody I've bitched about somewhere, so I'm not going to pretend to be like holier than thou. But I think the important thing, and this is kind of what I always tell people ask me all the time, why do you write positive stories? Is your blog not tabloidy? Why don't you say, I'm like, because for me, I'm a romantic. Bollywood is a dream. It's a magical place. And everything Bollywood stars wear, where they go, who they eat, who they meet is an extension of that dream. So I feel like a hypocrite if I love the movies and I love all those things, but then I tear them down. Just like I would feel so hurt if my best friend is going through a divorce and everyone was standing and laughing at her and saying, oh, she's such a loser or whatever it is. So I feel, what is wrong with taking a positive spin? Now, this doesn't mean sucking up to celebrities. We don't do that. It's not saying, oh, you're amazing, this movie was... No, not at all. It's saying, and this is a true story, the difference between... so I'll tell you the story. So we went to interview Shah Rukh Khan. This is the first time I was interviewing him. And I was so nervous. Our slot was 7 p.m. on Independence Day for the happy year. We waited, hours passed, and they were like, no, it's not going to come, let's go. I'm like, I'm not leaving. I will stay here forever for my Shah Rukh Khan interview. I went for the morning because it takes a long time. Sometimes he's late, but it just takes so long. And I was like, fine. But he's so charismatic, it didn't matter. But there was one website who was interviewing him before me. And the guy went up to him with one microphone and said exactly this. Shahrukh, Salman ne aapke bare mein Twitter pe jo bola aapko bura laga? Like, did you feel bad what Salman said meanly about on Twitter? And Shahrukh said, look, what you don't know about, don't ask. Interview over. I was like, you waited 9 hours to piss off Shah Rukh Khan? Meanwhile, we came, we had cupcakes, and we played charades. So you saw Shah Rukh Khan playing charades with Abhishek Bachchan acting out Bluff Master, and I don't think anyone's seen them do that. So I think it's much more fun, much more human. We have to stop taking ourselves so seriously. And honestly, like I said, zoom out. We live in a world that has, unfortunately, so much hatred, war, sadness, animosity. We are so lucky. I'm so lucky to be doing what I love every day. Have food to eat, places to go, great friends. So isn't it the onus on me to spread more joy and happiness, even if it seems in a fluffy environment and entertainment? Shouldn't I be doing something that makes people smile and not feel angry about each other or make a celebrity feel bad about themselves? So then shouldn't the question be why, not why do you write so many positive stories? Shouldn't the question be why do you write so many negative stories to other people?
That's absolutely fabulous, and I can vouch for her spirit of generosity. I remember I brought my book out in 2011, and she was the only website who very sweetly sent a reporter over to an event, and I was so touched by that. Thank you. And in the same spirit of generosity, I remember the Friday Club, which was very popular, and it was nothing but an attempt to get people to meet other people. Could you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so when I was, again, because I had to move every 3 years and I had to make new friends, I was like, how do I do that? So a friend of mine and I went out one night and we were like, hey, we're at this bar, there's so many people who look like us, they must be nice, let's go say hi. That was our plan. So we went up to a couple of people, and if you go and say hi to strangers, they all think you're crazy. So we're like, okay, back to the drawing board. So I was like, okay, why don't we start something called Friday Club? Called Friday Club because we go out on Fridays, not super intellectual. And then, so we said, okay, let's go out and let everyone bring a friend. And the point was, I didn't want to create a singles club. It was for people who are married, couples, there still are, now there are children at Friday Club. And it was just a place where you could come and meet people in a non-stressful environment. And you know why a lot of times people say the best years of my life were school and college? Why? Because that's when you were thrown together with so many people on a daily basis, and you could love some, you could hate some, you could be indifferent to some, but you met so many people and it nurtured your soul. It made you come alive. And for some reason people say that after you hit school, college, work, now you can't make more friends. Or max, you make those 3 friends in the office who you definitely don't want seeing you dance on a table, you know? So I wanted to create an environment where you meet people from other walks of life, from, you know, so we had like a dentist and a lawyer. A lawyer was very useful. And just different people who are, you know, doing different things. And we would get along and go out every Friday. And it was just a safe place that, what do I do? Go out, and then I have like 70, 80 people to go dancing with. We went to Goa, we played human foosball, that's a thing, by the way. We went, yeah, and we went salsa dancing, just anything anybody wanted to do, we put it together. And it was never a singles club, it was just an environment for people to meet and hang out. And ironically, 7 people met and got married. In fact, that's where I met my husband. He walked in one day to Friday Club. So my mother is like, let me send all the cousins from Bhopal. I'm like, not that kind of club. And my brother met his wife. So, you know, I got everything I needed out of it, basically.
That's a lovely, lovely story. But I have a social service of announcement to make. Please do tweet #BombayWali.com. I mean #BombayWali. The Twitter handle is @SheThePeopleTV. Miss Malini, of course, you know, please go to our Facebook page and check the live there, share it.
You can hashtag and the moon for me.
Yes, the book, that's important too. Now, because we have many people out here who are bloggers and who are keen to know how they can build their own blogging blog, a brand. What would you tell them? How do you build a blogger brand? Do you build a brand, do you build a personality, or you just start blogging and find it?
I mean, the first thing you do is decide what is the thing you're passionate about. Nowadays, it's not necessarily that you have to be a blogger. I think now the key word is being an influencer is probably what you're looking to be, which means you may not even want to have a blog at all, you know? So there might be, it depends what you love to do. First, back up and don't say, okay, I want to be a famous blogger. Think about what it is that you love. Do you love photography? Do you love food? Do you like taking pictures of food? Because then you'd be a great Instagrammer. Think about what it is that you're most passionate about, and then come up with what the things you like about under that are. Now, it might be that the content you like to create may just do really well as video content. Video content is becoming much bigger now, and a lot more people are spending more time doing that, even Facebook and Instagram above. There's even, for instance, I don't know if you know this, so Facebook always has an algorithm, right? That until you pay a lot of money, not everyone sees your stories, there is a loophole. On stories, on Facebook, if you do native stories, they have something called stories. If you post there, the algorithm doesn't apply. So it goes to all 2.6 million of your followers. So if you ever want a message to go out to everyone, use their native stories. Yeah, actually it's called articles, sorry. Instant articles or native articles, whatever it is. They're gonna kill me for telling you this. Anyway, so those are the things. You need to figure out what it is that you want to do. For instance, if you're someone who wants to create bite-sized quick news, then maybe Twitter is the place for you. Insta Story is a great way to do day in my life and carry things like that. If you want to do much more quality beauty videos, then you definitely want to use well-lit rooms with good cameras and things like that. But nowadays, like for instance, I have the Pixel XL. It's an amazing phone. Put it on portrait mode, you look like you took it professionally. So the best thing to do, honestly, is there is no one shoe fits everyone, right? I was going to use a terrible Cinderella analogy that I'm not going to try to do now, but you just have to figure out what is it that you really want to do on your blog or your Instagram handle, and then find the right tools to do it. And I'm very happy to help. So if you want to email me and ask me questions, even now, whenever, I'm happy to suggest what you can do. There is an A to Z in my book about digital brand building, and this like A is for Apple Macintosh, B is for blogging, C is for community, things like that, which I think will help. But I think the biggest thing you ever need to do is find the gap. What are you doing differently? Or what is the identity that you have that nobody else has out there? Because you might be inspired by someone. Like I was inspired by Perez Hilton or Just Jared. But you can't be identical to them. Like I say, don't be a me too, be you. Find something that speaks your voice and that is unique. And that is what's going to make you stand out in your blog.
A lot of people have written and saying that Bollywood blogging is an area of interest, but it's a crowded space. So how do you distinguish your voice from the other voices there?
So the thing is, the great thing about Bollywood blogging is that I don't feel you have the pressure to have so much background education. Like in fashion, you really feel like, okay, and first of all, fashion, I sat front row with all these people, all they do is like to say everything looks terrible because that's the safest thing to say. As soon as you say, oh, I like that, they're like, but how? Why? What did you like about it? It was terrible. I remember I was watching Malini Ramani's show, okay, and this lady from a newspaper was sitting next to me and saying, you know, every year Malini does the same thing, she should do something new. The show started, she had a totally different collection. End of the show, she's like, she should just stick to what she wants to do. So I went to her and I was like, dude, what's your problem? And she was like, what's your name? I said, Malini. And she was like, it must have been very confusing. Yeah, but that's the thing, sorry, the sidebar. What was your question again?
How do you distinguish yourself in Bollywood blogging?
No, so Bollywood blogging is very complex in the sense that there's tabloid blogging, but there's reviewing, or there's documenting a fly-on-the-wall experience, doing much more lengthy content pieces. So what kind of content do you want to create? I know the kind that does the best on our blog is the ones which is the blind items, where you don't know who did it, but you kind of have a clue. So you really have to decide what that voice will be. Having an identity and a personality makes the biggest difference. I think the ones that stand out to me who have been Bollywood bloggers are influencers more than anyone who's just a regular site. Because what's happened on the site, fortunately, it is a lot of media dumps. There's a lot of media where people, buy an article or buy a story. We don't do that, by the way. And I think that you need to, again, the biggest problem is if you feel the obligation that I have to put something up just for the sake of it, it's not going to do well. If you read it and you're like, would I read this, and you're not sure, then don't put it up. There's enough junk on the internet anyway. So.
That's true.
What kind of a boss are you?
Oh my God, you should ask these guys. I'll be super honest with you. I'm really out of Devil Wears Prada because when I get stressed out, I get really angry and stressed, and then I get mad. But I think like Ambika's my assistant and lifesaver, knows how to handle it very well. But I'm a very enthusiastic boss. I get very excited about everything, and our office space is very chill, and everyone comes and sits at a community table. The best rumor I ever heard is that to work at Miss Malini, you need to wear 6-inch heels to the office. We don't have an elevator; you'd kill yourself, and you have to have.
Finally, I am going to throw the floor open to questions, and the best 5 questions are going to win a signed copy of Malini's book, To the Moon. So keep your questions ready, but my final question right now is, what are your life hacks for safety?
Red Bull, FOMO, fear of missing out. I guess I'm an eternal optimist to like an unrealistic degree. Which I think has really helped me because I always think the movie isn't over until it's a happy ending, so even if something is bad. Aside from that, really life hacks is always, nurture your friendships and your relationships and spend more time talking to them and spend a lot of time with your friends and sleep when you're dead. I'd rather, you should try to get enough sleep, but still. I think that's the most important life hack is don't forget to love yourself. I actually went to this, I'd never done it before, I went to a meditation class in Dadar. It was amazing. I thought it would be a little bit corny, but then I sat down, and we sat down, and did you guys go to it too? Somebody was like, you did. Were you there? So we sat down and did this, and one thing that really struck me is that, they do this whole thing with chakras, and then put both hands on your heart and open your heart and think about and ask yourself these questions. How are you feeling? Am I taking care of you? And am I loving you enough? And you can't help it, it makes you cry. Like you just genuinely, I was so surprised that it did that. And I think that's a question we never ask ourselves. How are you feeling? Because you're the only one who's gonna answer, because everyone asks you, like, how's it going? No, everything's okay, but you're dying inside. You're the only person you're honestly gonna answer that question to is yourself. And I have a really hard time being alone. So even if I travel, I wanna go with someone. If I see a beautiful sunset, I wanna say, hey, look at that beautiful sunset. I can't do it alone. But I'm learning over time to appreciate my own company more. And I think that's something that is a big life hack that I'm learning. So,
what next for Miss Malini?
The moon. I have a tattoo. I'm really excited to write this book. I have a 2-book deal with HarperCollins, so I really hope this one does well because I'm going to write a romance next, hopefully. A digital romance. It all happens on social media. And then I've got a TV show out now. It starts on the 28th called Inside Access with Miss Malini on VH1.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Watch.
8 p.m. on Sundays. And then I'm, building the company. So now I think, like every day I go to the office and I'm like, do you work here? Because someone new has joined. So there's like 57 people who've joined. And we're expanding. We're going to start doing regional languages. We're going to do an app. I have so many things I want to do. One day I want to start a Kiran movie. Just kidding, but never say never.
Bucket list at the
There is. Oh yeah, so at the end of my book I have a bucket. There's going to be 100 things, but it's too many. So I put 24 things I want to do before I die, which is a Bollywood bucket list. So like one is wear a red sari in Switzerland and roll down an ice slope, or do the I'm the king of the world on a cruise ship. So I have mine, so please you can tear it out and see how many of those. The one I've always wanted to do, and my husband could never understand this, is in Dil, the movie Dil, they're driving around on this truck of hay and they're lying in the sun. And I was like, I've always wanted to do that. And so my husband is like, do you know how uncomfortable that would be? But yeah, so that's on my list.
Lovely. That was lovely. So
Thank
many
you.
fabulous insights, and I can see the hands are going up already.